1001 Things Everyone Should Know About African American History. Jeffrey C. Stewart. Fact number 351. Jim Crow. Jim Crow was taken from a white performer named Thomas Daddy Rice, who caricatured black styles of walk, talk, and dress in the 1830s. Initially performing in Cincinnati, Rice brought his impressions to the New York Bowery Theater in 1832. His songs became popular American classics in which he told his working class white audience that every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow. Jim Crow, Rice's portrayal of a handicapped black man, became an urban stereotype of black behavior, almost as popular as Uncle Tom. But in the late 19th century, Jim Crow came to symbolize a wide ranging system of segregation that separated blacks and whites in almost every aspect of public life in the American South. In recent years, the term Jim Crow has come to represent the entire system of black oppression in the South, including not only segregation but also disfranchisement, lynching, rioting, and economic discrimination, which together carved a place for the Negro in the South as a second class citizen. Historians debate the actual beginning of the Jim Crow system in the South. Almost all believe the first attempts at segregation began immediately after the Civil War, codified in the Black Codes. But these efforts were struck down by the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the Reconstruction Act of 1867, and the 14th Amendment. One historian, C. Van Woodward, has argued that after such suppression, the persuasive segregation of Southern life that appeared in the early 20th century did not develop until the 1890s and the struggle over populism in the South. Other historians, most notably Joel R. Williamson, however, have found evidence of segregation in public life in the South in the 1870s and the 1880s when blacks began to be refused admittance to the first class cars on trains. That seems plausible since Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1875 in response to the rise of public discrimination against African Americans. Still, that the law was passed and enforced attempt indicates that segregation in public arenas was not the law of the South in the 1870s. Even after Rutherford B. Hayes, as part of a deal to seal his selection by the House of Representatives, was to be president, withdrew federal troops from the Confederate South in 1877, African American access to public accommodations varied throughout the South. But in 1887, Florida passed the first segregation statute ordering railroads to segregate their passenger cars. The next year, Mississippi followed suit, and in 1889, Texas passed its own Jim Crow law. The passage of the Florida laws began the Jim Crow period, one of the government sanctioned of segregation, disfranchisement, and terror in the South that lasted until the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education, Kansas decision that declared segregation unconstitutional.